The World Ends With You is a very surprising game. The deep message told through the protagonist Neku Sakuraba is of acceptance, that the world's diversity is to be celebrated, not blocked out and deemed as a problem. While the game mainly shows one character, director Megumi Kitaniji, as the main villain of the story, things get much more complicated come the climax. In this video, I will be looking into all the forces in the Reaper's game, the causes for which they fight, and challenge the idea of the story having a single main villain. Major spoilers for all of The World Ends With You ahead. You may not care, but you should. 12 is peak and you should play it. Even watch the anime, just experience it somehow. Chapter 1. Megumi Kitaniji. As previously stated, the game depicts Shibuya's director, Megumi Kitaniji, as the main villain that needs to be taken down to win. This is technically true, as protagonist Neku is unknowingly playing as a proxy in the Reaper's game for the composer, Joshua, who is playing a large-scale game with Kitaniji for the fate of Shibuya. Joshua had seen no potential in humanity and wished to erase Shibuya in order to avoid the trend of wasted potential spreading across Tokyo. At the end of the game, Kitaniji's goal is revealed to be to stop Joshua from erasing Shibuya, saving everyone. This paints Kitaniji as a hero and may leave you wondering why he's largely considered the main villain. The reason for that is the means Kitaniji used to save Shibuya. He used the Reaper's games to spread his red skull pins through missions to make them more popular in the RG, as well as giving them to all the Reapers under the guise of O-pins, which could be used to boost their powers in emergencies. Near the deadline for Kitaniji's mission to save Shibuya, he activates the pins, which causes everyone to think the exact same. This is a dark mirror of Neku's mentality at the start of the game, when he wanted to block out everyone else and saw individuality as a disease. This makes Kitaniji the direct antithesis of the game's main themes considering coming out of your shell and enjoying the moments. Kitaniji, being a dark reflection of Neku, does make him out to be the main villain, but his goals are to save Shibuya, and the evil actions he did were out of desperation. So Kitaniji, the commonly named main villain, is also a heroic character who is driven by desperation by someone higher than him. Speaking of whom... Chapter 2. Yoshia Kiryu, aka Joshua. Joshua first appears on the first day of week 1, spying on Neku during the scene where he and Shiki formed their pact. This is a show of his cunning and his interest in Neku. Of course, as anyone familiar with The World Ends With You knows, Joshua is the composer of Shibuya, playing a large-scale game with Kitaniji for the fate of the ward, as mentioned earlier. Now would be a good time to talk about the details of the Reaper's game, imagination, and Joshua's role in it all. About a week before the events of Toei's start, Joshua had decided to erase the ward of Shibuya. Joshua is the member of the Angels group, although it's unclear if he is actually an angel himself. The goal of the Angels seems to be increasing the imagination levels of the general population, as said in the secret reports. They created the Reaper's game to increase average imagination levels by giving dead people trials by fire that can only be overcome by using and growing their imagination, the power behind the psyches the players use, for a second chance at life. The primary imagination output of the Reaper's games is the players that get revived. These players have proven to have the imagination necessary to inspire others through art and the like, with the other winners either being erased if their imagination isn't high enough, becoming Reapers to continue the imagination mill, or even ascending to angel status if their imagination is high enough. It's unknown what the Angels' ultimate goal is, whether it's benevolent or not, or why they need those with high imagination, but this is the reason behind Joshua wanting to get rid of Shibuya. According to Joshua, in the final sequence of the game, Shibuya was full of wasted potential. The people's imagination levels were dropping, and their souls were undergoing stagnation. In this world and in real life, the Shibuya shopping district is a hugely influential ward, often the sites of hugely popular brands and shops. This meant that the trend of stagnation in Shibuya would soon spread across Tokyo and beyond, shrinking general imagination levels. This is a direct threat to the Angels' goal, so naturally Joshua needed to do something about it. As the composer of Shibuya, he had the responsibility to do what is needed for the greater good regarding the ward he oversaw. This can easily be argued to be heroic, as a higher common imagination level is a good thing. But I don't blindly believe that the end justifies the means, and that's the only justification for Joshua's actions. I would consider Joshua to be the true villain of this story, as his callous actions to erase thousands of innocent, unsuspecting people are undoubtedly villainous, and it was the rules he set for his game with Kitaniji that led to the homogenization of Shibuya, which is the main threat that Neku and Beat fight in the last act in the game. This was all part of his big game of chess he had set out on the board of Shibuya. But while Joshua and Kitaniji were playing chess, someone else barged in playing Exodia the Forbidden One. Chapter 3. Hanekoma and Minamimoto. That person was the sandal-rockin', born 3rd of March, windfall-lovin' hip barista, Mr. That is, of course, Mr. Sane Hanekoma. For those who haven't familiarized themselves with the secret reports of this game, or watched the end of the anime, you might be surprised to hear his name in a video about antagonistic forces of The World Ends With You. But what about our favorite number-crunching math fetishist, Sho Minamimoto? As soon as Minamimoto shows up on screen, you can practically taste the chaos off him. He's loud, eccentric, and a lot more eager to show off than the previous Game Master. The week that Minamimoto oversees is week 2, which is the week when things really start to go off the rails, with the lack of issued missions and bizarre black noise that's apparently the Reaper's equivalent of a war crime. It's unsurprising that Minamimoto has an ulterior motive that he was working on behind the scenes. Well, as behind the scenes as a man of Minamimoto's caliber can manage. He wants to become the new composer, and the only way for him to do this is by defeating the current composer, Joshua. Of course, killing someone who can call down heavenly light to smite all inconveniences in his way is no easy task. So he formulated, pun intended, 2 ways to take down Joshua. Plan A was to corner him in the real ground with a gun, and take him out the quick and easy way. After all, Reapers lose their superpowers in the RG, so the plan was foolproof. Unfortunately for him, the composer is indeed not a Reaper. He's also apparently a lot smarter and faster than our little assassin. Joshua shot Minamimoto first, and then effortlessly stopped all of Minamimoto's bullets with his composer abilities, and then scared him away. This meant Minamimoto would have to go with Plan B, using the imagination energy that builds up at Mark City to create an army of taboo noise. He would then destroy his body with a level I flare, which the anime further clarifies also functions as a taboo resurrection psych, so he can use a taboo noise refinery sigil to resurrect himself many times stronger than before. Taboo noise is named so as it's much stronger than normal noise, heavily resists any non-team attacks, and even attacks Reapers and players alike by themselves. Taboo noise refinery sigils come from the Angel plane, and knowledge on how to make them is in the tier above top secret due to the danger and chaos presented by the noise. So how did Minamimoto make all the sigils to create taboo noise and revive himself? Well, enter Hanekoma. Hanekoma is an angel, high-ranking enough to serve as producer for Joshua and Kitaniji's game. But unlike most other angels, he let his personal emotions get in the way of his divine duty. Hanekoma has a particular fondness for Shibuya, likely as a result of his work as the artist Cat, with his influence spread all across the world. The way his art works is, he imprints the ideas of enjoy the moment and gather. These messages get picked up by people with high levels of imagination, resonating with them and encouraging them to gather together and grow even more, like multiple hot coals burning together to make a big fire that's more than the sum of its parts, and in turn inspiring others. This of course lines up with the Angels' goal of boosting everyone's imagination, and maybe that's why Hanekoma wants Shibuya to stay instead of Joshua erasing it. He just needs a bit more time before the big payoff. Either way, Hanekoma disagrees with Joshua and his ideas of Shibuya, and passionately so. And people can do crazy things in the flames of passion, such as leaking the identity of the composer and even the uber top secret methods of summoning taboo noise to the most chaotic and madly ambitious Reaper in Shibuya's ranks. Hanekoma didn't have complete faith in Kitaniji to be able to save Shibuya from erasure, so he threw in his own hat into the ring with Minamimoto as kind of a plan B. With the power of taboo noise, Minamimoto could be able to take down Joshua and take the composer's seat for himself. Whole new set of problems, but at least Shibuya would still be around. Towards the end of the game, in week 3, a lot of the established lines start to blur. The main villain is ambiguous, with the composer being the one you're hunting down, Kitaniji being the final boss, and of course Minamimoto showing up every once in a while to absolutely beat your ass. Minamimoto is always at the front of your mind, a clear aspect of a potential main villain, and he's a consistent threat who's a considerable contender in the clash for Shibuya's fate. This is why I'm putting Minamimoto in this video, but he doesn't exactly hit the threshold of main villain all by himself. After all, he had a lot of help which he couldn't have made it nearly this far without. Hanekoma knew what he was doing, tampering with Minamimoto's sigil to revive him and doxing Joshua. He wanted Minamimoto to defeat Joshua in the event that Kitaniji lost, and was fully aware of the consequences of the actions he had decided to take. As I mentioned earlier, I don't believe that the end simply justifies the means. The means in Hanekoma's case being unleashing taboo noise across the UG and killing a huge number of players and reapers. In fact, the angels have their own system of laws, with the breaking of these giving one the status of fallen angel, which is just another word for a demon. So I hope it now makes sense why I put Hanekoma on a list of Toei villains. The World Ends With You is such a strange game, with insane lore behind the scenes. The game is so hard to define. It's fitting then, that there's no one true main villain. It shows how unafraid the devs were to break out of the general JRPG formula. The game benefits so much from a shades of grey perspective on the characters, as wondering who the main villain is really helps the game stay in your mind. And that's the game's biggest strength, staying with you. The villain conundrum is far from the most thought-provoking aspect of the game for me, but I still wanted to discuss it to shine a light on a really well done example of writing and break down what makes this pantheon so great. And that's what art does. It stays with you. You think about it and it influences you. The effect is different from person to person, so I hope this video resonated with any viewers who found the ambiguous antagonists of this game particularly fascinating. The problems present in real life that can be compared to the whole debacle in Shibuya throughout this game are seldom black and white, with many situations not having a win-win answer, and powerful people making potentially regrettable decisions out of a vision for the greater good, desperation, or methodical means to an end. The World Ends With You is fundamentally relatable, so having these hopeless situations where the villain are all supposedly doing the right thing in their eyes definitely helps that. But in the end, Neku didn't let the world bring him down. Instead, letting his awful situation fuel his growth. The growth that made Joshua reconsider what he was doing right at the moment of climax. This is probably the most staying aspect of this game for me. The world changed for the better because one person with the weight of the world on his shoulders didn't give up, proving the worth of humanity. As Joshua said in his own words,
"A boy who lived his life alone, shutting his ears and refusing to listen to a word anybody else said, dropped his gun and extended his hand in trust. His change of heart inspired mine."
Neku was the worst example of humanity that Joshua could find, which is why he chose him as his proxy. But he rose up and proved the undeniable truth permeating that world, that anyone or anything can change for the better, no matter how bad they seem. I hope that message stays with you too.